Hi everyone, my name is Gabi from the Kia Hyundai channel, and today I have something, well, it's not a Kia or a Hyundai, but we are going to compare it to one. This is the 2024 Toyota RAV4 LE all-wheel drive. This is the base model you can get here in Canada, and it's already equipped with all-wheel drive. Today we're going to give you a walkthrough, or I guess a drive-through, of everything you can expect driving this vehicle and how we can compare it to the base model Kia Sportage. Alright, so first things first, I just want to get myself and you guys familiarized with what we have in the driver's area. So looking at our gauge cluster, you can see it is digitized in the very center. We have a handy digital speedometer right up front with our distance to empty. And a fun fact about this car, it came to us with only 262 kilometers on the odometer and 546 kilometers to empty on the fuel tank. Now this car is rated for about 722 distance to empty for a full tank of gas, which leads me to believe the previous owner never had to put gas in this car. Fuel efficiency, fantastic. But other than that, just drivability, I think the steering wheel is quite nice. No heated steering wheel on the LE trim, but we do have heated seats, high and low for driver and passenger. There's also an array of just driver features. So we have an eco mode, a normal mode, and a sport mode, as well as some terrain modes. So snow mode, mud and sand, and rock and dirt. Rock and dirt is something we're not used to seeing for the Kia side of things, so I don't think we're going to be driving this vehicle in those conditions, but it is a nice equivalent. With that being said, we are in a Canadian winter and we are utilizing the traditional all seasons that come with the car, so we'll get a good feel for what the road or how the vehicle handles on slippery conditions. Stay tuned, we'll hit the road now. Okay, so we're just approaching the on-ramp to the highway. It's a 400 series highway, so speed limit's 100. We will be taking it up to speed. I'm curious to see how this vehicle gets up to speed without utilizing sport mode, and then I think once we're on the highway, I will turn on our sport mode to see what the pickup is like and how it changes the throttle response. So going along the curve onto the ramp, I do think it handles quite nicely. It's pretty smooth. The roads aren't bad. I don't know why I mentioned that we're in Canadian winter. This isn't even the worst of it, but right, now's the time to test it out. I'm gonna slowly work our way up to speed, try to get ahead of this truck. Alright, there we are. No blind spot detection. Actually, there's blind spot detection, but it did not activate, which is pretty strange. And the feature is turned on. We're now up to 100, and I think the vehicle handles it smoothly. There's not too much noise coming from the vehicle, so the harshness isn't too bad. I will point out that when we were driving at city speeds, Charlotte kind of noticed that it sounds almost like we're driving on winter tires, which we're not. It's the all seasons that it came with. So it's a bit noisier than how I'd say the drive is in the Kia Sportage, if I'm being honest, but when it comes to pickup and speed and how it handles its speed, it is quite smooth. I do feel like this car handles very nicely. Also, I mean, if you are a shorter driver like me, I'm about 5'3", 5'4", I do like how I'm seated in this car. So of course you can position your seat and make yourself comfy, but this definitely reminds me of the old 2013 not RAV4, oh my gosh, I'm totally blanking out, Tacoma that we had, and I was driving for a while. In the sense, it rides quite high. It feels almost truck-like for an SUV, and I like that. I'm not sure about you guys, so let us know. But I do like the drive. It's scaring me to admit. All right, we're gonna change lanes. Nice and smooth. Yeah, I think the car is doing quite well. I'm gonna put it into sport mode and give it a little bit of fuel. Okay. I don't think sport mode makes that much of a difference, if I'm being honest. It's not a throttle sensitivity that I overly felt. I know on our Kia vehicles, when you shift into sport, you kind of feel it instantly. It already gives a little kind of lurch to push forwards. It wants to move. This car is a little bit hesitant to move, which could be a good thing, especially if you have a heavy foot like me. So let's try eco mode and see how sluggish it makes it feel. Okay. Eco mode did kind of dull things down a bit. Oh, there's no lane detection. Okay, yeah, eco mode. I mean, our fuel efficiency meter is really great, but it is a little bit of a more sluggish ride. So I'm going to continue on our drive, and we'll meet you back in the city. All right, so we're back in the city, just at a stop sign right now. Back up to speed. I think the only time where the sluggishness of the sensitivity of the throttle would be an issue is for someone like me that does a lot of city driving with a lot of stop and go. And just getting to the go part might be a little bit annoying for someone like me, but hey, that's just me. I do appreciate a bit more sensitivity, but I honestly have to say, once it's up to speed, this car is truly a pleasure to drive. I really like it. I'm not sure if you can pick up Charlotte for microphone. Do you have a mic on, Charlotte?
I do now.
Okay. As a passenger, how does this feel for you?
Yeah, so it's comfortable. The seats are definitely a comfortable material. You can tell that they are made from a premium cloth. As far as the setup goes when it comes to comfort features, I do like it. I do like actual buttons and dials. I'm not a huge fan of switches though, these toggles. I think that is a little more outdated. And although I think the screen is good, it is intuitive, I think it could be improved upon as well. It's not that big, and I don't find it as easy to use as maybe I am with the one in the Sportage. But as far as the ride, it is comfortable. When Gabi was on the highway and did flip it into eco mode, you could definitely feel the response even from sitting in the passenger seat, which is a little bit interesting. But overall, I think it is a pretty pleasurable experience. It's comfortable in here. The heat works great because it's cold out. Yeah. And the heated seats work great too, even though it is cloth seats. So again, you can tell that even though it is basic, it is made with some quality materials.
One thing I wanted to point out, because we are in the city, of course, we have lots of lane markers and there's a lot of traffic, or Brantford traffic at least, around us. I want to see how our lane keep assist system works, because I know the Kia one works great and it also works at very low speeds, or even if there's only one lane on the road, so think a country road. So far I haven't been able to get it to enable other than on the highway, so that leads me to believe, I'm not too in tune with Toyota's technology, makes me think maybe theirs is only at high speeds, which is something that we had in the past for our Kia lane keep assist. It was only active above 50 something kilometers per hour, but let's see. I can easily see the lanes. There's not too much stuff on the road right now. There's not a lot of slush or dirt or snow, but the car doesn't seem to be reading them. There's no one around me, so I'm gonna slowly lurch over to the right side of the lane. Oh, there we go. We got a beeping and a slight response to the steering to pull me back to the center, which is quite nice. Now with that being said, Kia does have lane keep assist and lane follow assist. So lane keep kind of just same thing that just happened, lets you know when you're about to depart and corrects you. Lane follow assist actually takes corrective action before it happens, so it will literally steer for you as it sees changes in the road. So there's a slight bend right here. Yeah, the car's not doing it. Okay, so we don't have that here. But other than that, still, I have to say the drive's great. So next feature I'm playing around is the adaptive cruise control, which starts on the LE trim, which is the base here in Canada, which is really nice to see, I will say. That's something where the RAV4 beats the Sportage. I have our speed set and their following distance set to the closest, and you can see we have a really fair bit of space between our RAV and the GMC ahead of us. Of course, this is going to change with the trends of the car ahead of us. So if they slam on the brakes, whether it be for a stoplight, my car is going to come to a halt as well too. I do to say, I think it's smooth. I'm actually very impressed. For someone who doesn't understand how this feature works, I just played around with it now. I'm impressed. So I would say fairly user-friendly and pretty smooth. We're going to turn over to the countryside now and get a feel for more rough roads and just less traffic around us. So we can't really play around with the safety features here, but we can definitely get a closer look at the drive and maybe get some outside shots of the vehicle in motion so you guys can see what this would look like if it was your car, if you were watching someone else drive it. And one thing I wanted to show, just because this is a major hot topic for Toyota, the backup camera. They improved it. Ignore the watermarks. There's no way to avoid that other than wiping it each time. But the backup camera's improved. I remember the 2019 I sold, like I mentioned earlier. It looked like it was filmed on a Nokia phone.
Yeah, so even with the 2020, we have a 2020 hybrid RAV4 in our lot too, and it looks like it's filmed through a bubble lens.
Yeah.
It's kind of distorted. I didn't love it when I was using it the other day. This one I think is great. Quality is great, picture's great, and it's got dynamic guidelines, so we love to see that.
Let's see how it ties up to the Sportage.
Yeah.
Now, something a bit more traditional. This is the 2024 Kia Sportage, and I think I lied at the beginning of this video saying it was going to be an LX. We only have an EX available to test drive, but they share the same engine and powertrain as the LX trim, so don't worry, the drive will be the same. Now, hopping in this vehicle, we're going to see a couple major differences, but I'm going to keep it fair and talk about things that are only available in the LX just to make things more comparable. So, let's take it for a ride. Drive-wise, I can already know before I hit the road, It's going to be very different. I do know my Sportage is going to be quite more sensitive to throttle input, so it's going to go a bit more. But I'm curious to see how they hold up driving one immediately after the other. So I still have the RAV4 fresh in my mind. Let's see how it does. First thing I want to talk about though while we let the car warm up is the dash and just the driver's area, how easy it is to use. So for the steering wheel, it is heated and leather wrapped in this trim. On the base model it is not. However, everything else is laid out the same. You get media and voice commands on the left with driving assistance controls on the right. So on the LX trim, we're not going to have adaptive cruise control. It's just going to be regular, so you can ignore that button. But we will have our lane keep assist button here, which not only lets you know when you're about to depart from your lane and puts you back in, it's actually going to take advanced corrective steering. So if it senses a curve in the road ahead of you, your car will take that. It is a steering assistance and not just a warning, if that makes sense. So I know that's going to be really good on this vehicle. Other than that, let's take a look at our gauges. So this is a mix of digitized and analog. In the very center, this is what we can actually control. So by using our steering wheel controls, we can cycle between different menus. We have our navigation menu, our tire pressure, as well as where we're at in our lanes. Our speedometer and tachometer are digitized, and we have our distance to empty at the very top. So that is going to be the same in the entry-level trim of the Sportage. That screen's the same. This screen is completely different. So when you go to the EX and above, you'll get this beautiful 12.3-inch display. It's got built-in navigation, Sirius XM, all that great stuff. But it is wired for CarPlay. That's the only downside. But for Toyota, it's wired no matter what trim you get. So little bonus there, I guess, for Kia. Everything else as far as materials go, the screen layout is very similar on the entry trim level, or I should say dash layout's very similar. All your controls will be showcased in the very center. So your gear shift, which is tied to your 8-speed automatic, your heated seats will still be here, but you will omit the heated steering wheel. I do like the cup holders here, and your drive and terrain modes are controlled with this handy dial. So you get drive when it's illuminated, terrain you push it down, and it cycles between these three different options. So for terrain you get snow, mud, and sand. We don't have rock and dirt like the Toyota, but you get these three. And then for drive we have normal, sport, and smart. So with that being said, let's take it for a drive. Alright, we just pulled out of the Brantford Kia parking lot, and like I mentioned, this trim is a bit higher than what we've showcased for the RAV4 equivalent. So I'm only going to talk about features that are on the Kia equivalent, which would be the LX all-wheel drive trim. So first thing I'm going to start with is that lane assist and how it actively steers for you. So I'm going to pass this truck. You can see the lanes ahead of us. There's no snow or slush covering them, which means the car has no problem reading it, and it's reading it at low speeds. We're at about 65 kilometers per hour right now. In just a second, I'm going to take my hands off the wheel, and you will see that the Kia Sportage is going to steer for me. So there's a very dramatic curve upcoming. Let's see, hands off the wheel. Car is steering. Take a look. So it is a more advanced feature or system for sure. I really like it, and it's something I have in my daily vehicle, which is a 2022, and I use it every single day. So it's definitely a must-have for me. It's nice that we get it in our standard trim. When it comes to the drive itself, I'm about to take it on the highway, so we'll lead into that. I can already notice a difference in the sensitivity of the throttle. We're only in normal mode right now, so it's not, actually we're in smart mode, but it's in a normal setting. So when I give it gas, it goes, which is all you want in a car, right? But it is quite sensitive. It responds very well to driver input. The ride is not too noisy. The one thing I like more about the RAV4 is the seating position. So while this vehicle is comfy and it actually does have more space in the front for between driver and passenger, I don't particularly like this more than the RAV4 when it comes to how it feels. I do like the more truck-like feel of the RAV4, but that is totally personal. You might more so like an SUV feel that this one has. All right, so we're about to hop on the highway. Charlotte, are you ready?
Let's go.
And I'm gonna leave it in smart mode, which is essentially normal right now, and put it into sport once we reach highway speeds. So let's go over. Get a nice curve. And again, this vehicle is outfitted with all-season tires, so we're not on snows. Noise for the drive is quite muted. I do think there's a good amount of just insulation in this vehicle and attention to the noise vibration harshness. All right, we're giving it gas, getting up to 100. All right, we're at 100 now, nice and smooth. I don't feel any resistance with this vehicle. It only has 41 kilometers on it, mind you. We're on the highway, and that was smooth, no choppiness whatsoever. I'm gonna switch it into sport mode now. I really like the dials. I think they're easy to use, and you can instantly feel a jump. So that's honestly one of my favorite things, switching my car from normal to sport, just to feel that kind of pounce that the car makes.
The extra peppiness.
Yeah, it's instant, it's on the fly. So I will say, when it comes to acceleration and getting up to speeds, Sportage is definitely a winner in my books. I think the RAV4 is still leading the pack for overall ride, so how you're seated in the vehicle and how the car feels around you. We'll get into more handling once we reach the country roads where there's more bends and winds, but meet you there. All right, so as we take this turn, once we're on our straightaway, I'm going to turn on the adaptive cruise control for the Kia Sportage. Now, I will, again, disclaim that the Smart Cruise Control or Adaptive Cruise Control is only available on this trim level and above for Kia, so it's not on the entry like the Toyota has. But it is way easier to use, so I'm going to show you how easy. All I have to do is click on our cruise control button, set my speed, and set my distance with the button underneath. So there's 4 different presets to choose from. Each of them are very good. I'm going to bring it to the closest though, turn up our speed a little bit just because we are kind of pretty slow in traffic. And that's it. You get this cool display in the very center that shows you how far your line is from the car ahead of you, and of course it's going to slow you down and keep you at that distance once that rear end of the vehicle reaches that line. I'm sure the Toyota one's easy to use if you're used to it, but I will say I do think trying to like get from a blank or a clean slate in my head, not a Kia driver, I do think this is easier, more user-friendly at least. Both of them work good though, I will say that. Right, now I promise you we're going to go to the country roads and talk a little bit more about handling and get some cool shots of just what the vehicle looks like in motion. The last thing I'm going to show you guys is the backup camera. So although this vehicle does have the larger screen, the camera is going to be the same on the entry trim Sportage. I do like the dynamic guidelines, so you can see as I reverse and turn my wheels, that yellow line is going to show me where I'm going to end up. And the blue line is just your generic straightaway. So, sorry, this is going to be a 7-point turn, but we're going to work our way around. I also do like the inclusion of the sensors, so when you go to the EX or X-Line trim, that's when you'll get the rear parking sensors, which are quite helpful. All right, we got that. Last turn, and then we're back on the road. Yeah, we're back on the road. Woohoo! I will say, again, this vehicle is outfitted with all-season tires, not winters, and there is a fair bit of snow on the street. Or I shouldn't even say snow, it's more so just slush. So it does impact braking or brake times a little bit, but the overall drive is good. The all-wheel drive system definitely, it torques itself to perform better depending on the condition of the road. So if it was a beautiful summer's day where there's no slippage, you can believe it's just going to be primarily front-wheel drive. And then on a day like today, especially on a slushy road, it is going to use a little bit more power from those rear wheels to get you up to speed, which helps a lot in the acceleration standpoint. I do feel like this vehicle does have a smoother system in that sense. When it comes to handling, I'm going to be honest, I think I like the RAV4 a little bit better. I do feel like that car, it feels more planted, if that makes sense. I don't know if it's because the car feels heavier to me, or where I feel how I'm seated in the car. Maybe I feel more comfortable there. But I do think the handling is a little bit more up my alley on the RAV4. Now for you guys, I highly recommend driving both of these vehicles. If you could stop at our dealership if we still have that Toyota, or your nearest Toyota store or Kia store. Test driving both of them will really help you narrow it down which works best for your family. But this vehicle excels in the sensitivity of the throttle and how it performs from driver input. And also I want to say user controls. I think it's far easier to use the features on the Kia, and you get more features for the price point, which might be a big deal for you. Also warranty is something that Kia does excel in. So we get 5-year, 100,000 kilometers here in Canada, where the Toyota gets 36 months or 60,000 kilometers, so 3 years. Again, all things you have to consider price point wise. They both have a very similar starting price for the LX or the base trim levels, with both of them with all-wheel drive. So you gotta drive them. You definitely have to drive them, but that's my take on it. All right, so that concludes our test drive video of both of these amazing all-wheel drive SUVs. Now, if you are curious to see how they handle in your perspective, we have both available at this point. Or if this one's gone, we always have Kias. Come stop by our Brantford Kia location, or if you're looking for a Hyundai, we have Brantford Hyundai and Owen Sound Hyundai. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and we hope to see you again.